In this video, I'm just going to go over the law of cosines. This is kind of the second part of 9.7 from our text. This is not something that you're going to be quizzed over, but there are a couple practice problems covering this material, and it's just good practice. A lot of later mathematics is going to be looking at equations that have a lot of variables in them, and then oftentimes substituting in and simplifying. So there's similar to like law of sines and the area, there's multiple equations that you can use, and depending on what you're looking for, that's going to help you determine which one of these to use. So for example, if we look down at number 4, this says use the law of cosines to find the length of side B. So I've got two sides and an angle, but I want to find this other side. Okay, this isn't a case where we would be able to use law of sines just because there's not enough information given, so we would have to use law of cosines. Since I'm looking for B, that tells me that this equation is going to be the easiest. You could use any of them, but the algebra gets really nasty if you don't choose the one that is simplest. So let me start by just writing out that equation, and then we'll substitute in. So b squared equals a squared plus c squared minus 2 AC cosine of B. And just like the other stuff we've seen, this is just all multiplication. So that means 2 times A times C times the cosine of B. So we're just going to start plugging these things in. Okay, we know that B is what we're looking for. Remember, little a is a side, and that's across from the angle A. So small a is 11, and small c is 14. And if it helps you to label those, go ahead and do that. And then I'm just going to plug in. So b squared equals 11 squared plus 14 squared minus 2 times 11 times 14 times the cosine of angle B, which is 34 degrees. Now, we know everything on the right, meaning like we've substituted in for every single variable. So what we can do is we can just punch all this into our calculator in one long string, and as long as you enter it just like this, it should work out really nicely. When you do that, you should get b squared equals 61.65. So if you're just watching this for the first time, definitely punch that into a calculator. Make sure that you can do that properly and get this correct number. There is one more step. Since we have b squared and we just want b, we'll need to take the square root of both sides, and you should get b is equal to 7.85. Moving on, this one's a little bit different. In this example, we're only given side lengths. So this is another case where there's no way we could use law of sines. We don't know any angles. And again, we want to look at kind of what we're trying to find first. So this says use the law of cosines to find the measure of angle B. So again, we want to look up at our three equations and maybe pause here real quick and kind of look these over and think about which of these we would want to use to find the measure of angle B. So this is actually going to be the same exact equation we used before. This is the only one that has angle B in it. Remember, angle B is the uppercase B, and that's the only of the three equations that has that in it. So I'm going to copy that equation down again. B squared equals a squared plus c squared minus 2 AC cosine of B. And once again, I'm just going to fill in everything I know. That's side B, this is side A, this is side C. So let's just start by plugging them in. So B is 27, so 27 squared equals 12 squared plus 20 squared minus 2 times 12 times 20 times the cosine of B. Now, the thing that we're missing is over here. It's not by itself, so we're going to have to do a little bit more work, but we want to start by just doing the math that we can do, meaning I can do 27 squared. This is actually pretty nice too, right? I can square those two things and add them together. I don't want to mess with this subtraction yet, though. That's going to kind of throw things off. We'll see why in a minute. Another thing that I can do is I can multiply these three values together. So let's just do that part first, and that'll get us a lot closer to where we want to be. 27 squared on the left is 729. I'm going to do this whole chunk together. 12 squared plus 20 squared, you get 544 minus 2 times 12 times 20 is 480 times cosine of b. Here's where a lot of students get confused on what to do next. So what people want to do is they want to take 544 minus 480, but we can't do that because this 480 is attached to this cosine of b. We can't just subtract that, right? Order of operations tells us that I have to do this multiplication first. So I can't just subtract this 480 from that. So remember, when we're solving, we're kind of doing order of operations in reverse. So what we're going to want to do is get this to the other side so that I'm just left with this, and then I'll have to divide off that negative 480. So here's what that would look like. If I subtract 544 from both sides, we will end up with 185 equals negative 480 cosine of b. And now since those are multiplied together, we have to undo that using division, so I'm going to divide by a negative 480. And what I get there, I'm worried about running out of paper, but this is digital, so I don't have to worry about that. We end up with, on the left, I've got a negative 0.385 equals my cosine of b. And it's probably easier if we reverse that. We're used to seeing it in the other direction, so since these are equal, I can just switch them, that's fine. So the cosine of b is equal to negative 0.385. But I want angle b, I don't want the cosine of angle b, so this is where we need to use our inverses. So the inverse cosine now of that negative 0.385 will give me angle b. And so we just punch this into our calculator. It's fine that that's a negative. We're going to start seeing that with these triangles that are not right triangles. And when you do, you'll find that the measure of angle B is equal to 112.6.